Hello everyone, I'd like to share my Ningguang build and her team compositions with you in the short guide. She's actually one of my top 3 favorite characters, so I'm quite excited to finally make this video. And as always, I start with her build, then her team compositions and some gameplay at the end.
Give up. It's nothing.
Ningguang is considered a main DPS, so you might already know what this is gonna look like. High attack, crit rate, crit damage and geo bonus damage. You want to avoid elemental mastery and you don't need a whole lot of energy recharge. If you have a little bit like 130-140%, it's not the end of the world though. For her talents, level up her elemental burst skill first, then normal attacks and then the elemental skill. If you find yourself using a lot of normal attacks, then you might want to prioritize these over the elemental burst skill, but since her elemental burst skill only has 12 seconds cooldown and you want to switch to your other characters as well, I rarely find myself in the situation where I use a whole lot of normal attacks. Some of her constellations only improve her personal damage, others actually quite significantly change her playstyle. The first constellation adds some AoE damage to her normal attacks. So if you group up enemies with Venti, for example, it adds up to quite a bit. Her second constellation resets the skill cooldown of her elemental skill, which actually improves her burst potential by quite a bit, and the same can be said about the last constellation, which instantly generates 7 star jades when she uses her elemental burst skill. For her weapon choices, obviously crit rate and crit damage are the preferred substats. If you have the Battle Pass weapon or the Paimon Shop weapon, it's obviously a good choice, otherwise I would recommend the Witsith, even though Elemental Mastery doesn't benefit Geo characters. If you play it during the release of the Dodoko Tales, it might be a viable alternative. And as always, if you have a 5-star weapon, don't even think about it, use it. For artifacts, we already covered substats. For main stats, always attack percentage here. Always geo damage bonus here, and crit rate or crit damage, whichever one balances your build better, in the last slot. For the set effects, I'd recommend Archaic Petra 2Ps and Noblesse set 2Ps. It's quite easy to farm since you farm the Noblesse set anyway for a lot of characters and you only need 2 more pieces of Archaic Petra. Farm this here and the Noblesse set right here. For team compositions, you go with your usual main DPS, 2 supports and a healer. Obviously Ningguang is your main DPS. You definitely want to make sure to get a Geo Resonance, so you need a Geo support. The preferred choice is Zhongli followed by Albedo. If you don't have them, you can use your Geo main character or sub in Noel. For your healer, obviously the preferred choice is Bennett, but anything works. Another added benefit to Diona would be her shield skill activates Geo Resonance.
I won't hold you back.
And the last slot is pretty flexible. You can pick Venti to group up enemies, or pick Sarah to provide another attack buff, or just generally a sub DPS like Fischl or Zhangling. If you don't use a whole lot of normal attacks on your Ningguang, like I said earlier, you might want to avoid characters that trigger on normal attacks like Jingshou or Beidou. Before we move on to the showcase, there are actually 2 little things that you want to be aware of. If you place down a Geo construct, you can't place Ningguang's Jade screen too close to it because it will shatter. Get some distance, place it safely, and you will get the extra benefits like the Geo damage bonus when you walk through it and the extra synergy with the elemental burst skill. The other thing being, you want to make sure you get value out of your Geo Resonance, which means you want your Ningguang to be shielded all the time. If you don't have a shielding character in your party, apply some element to the enemy, trigger a Geo reaction, and it will leave behind a small shard. Pick it up and you will be granted a shield. Now for the showcase, she is actually pretty easy to use. Place down the Jade screen, walk through it and activate her elemental burst skill. If you have Constellation 6, you can also follow up with the charged attack to unleash your Jade particles or whatever they are called. So let's get the Geo Resonance first activated. There's the shield, we activate our elemental burst skill and follow up with the charged attack. If you have to fill, if everything is on cooldown, always alternate between normal attacks to gain the jade particles and then get a stamina-free charged attack. Since Ningguang is pretty bad in the current Abyss 12 due to her elemental burst cooldown being way lower than the occurrence of the positive elemental tides, I decided to showcase her burst potential against this boss. First a Constellation 2 Ningguang, followed by a Constellation 6 Ningguang.
Teamwork is dreamwork. It's nothing. Submit.
Alright, we made it to the end. Thank you very much for watching. I hope this gave you some inspiration for your own builds. Stay tuned for more guides in the future. Until then, have fun and take it, and bye bye.